just real quick, because I always like historicism and context. What was Alexander's reputation beyond his lifetime? And I'm not even going to say, obviously, the Romans would have known of him, other armies. I don't know if the Mongols knew of him, but I know in the Middle East they were familiar, obviously, with Iskandar, right, as they called him. Was Tamerlane aware of him?
Every martial culture in Asia, I think except for Japan, the Chinese knew about him, the Indians knew about him, everybody in Central Asia knew about him, everybody in the Near East knew about him. There were over 180 Alexander romances.
Oh.
An Alexander romance was not a history. There might be some historical things in it. These are folk tales that grew up around the legend of Alexander liberating peoples. Everywhere he went, he restored the traditional form of government of the local people.
Oh, wow.
And pretty much let them alone. He'd ask for some troops to come and help him liberate other people. Okay, for the most part, he would never raise their taxes unless they betrayed him, and he very often didn't. If they were of his racial group, he wouldn't levy taxes.
No.
Okay, and even alien nations that he conquered, he would never raise their taxes. He might keep the same taxes in place. So after his death, not only is there a war over who gets to keep his corpse, because he was literally regarded as the liberating son of God on earth, God with a capital G.
Right.
But romances proliferated about him into the Middle Ages for 1,500 years.
All right. So now let's say we get to the close to modern era of combat in Europe. We got the French, of course, Napoleon. The British, of course, are getting strong and everything. What were their views? I mean, Napoleon must have knew of him. What were their views on him? And were they just like romantic views, or were they actual, like, they were interested in tactics? Like, what was his reputation in like the modern military?
Very good as far as detail. The Macedonians were used by the French and English military history scholars of the late 1600s to the late 1700s as an example of combined arms teams warfare. And it was rare in the ancient world. The Romans were kind of like apes compared to the Macedonians when it came to combined arms warfare. Nobody really did combined arms warfare well in the ancient world other than the Macedonians. So they were looked at a lot once gunpowder had made infantry more important. And you still had a lot of muscle-powered warfare going on, to include the bayonet, horse soldiers and everything. So he was looked at in a more utilitarian manner by military historians. After the Napoleonic Wars, everybody pretty much just looks at Napoleon.
Right.
Okay. Until after the Civil War. Then after the Civil War, people start looking at the Confederates and the Mongols.
Interesting. Now, I know this is probably out of the scope, but the Prussians, the Prussian military...
Yes, that's who did it. The Prussian military reforms are basically come from looking at the Mongols and Nathan Bedford Forrest.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
In the light of, because there's a real crisis in Napoleonic warfare. People, generals and field marshals before the Civil War were said to have learned nothing and simply worshipped at the tomb of Austerlitz. Austerlitz is the great battle where Napoleon defeats, I think, 3 nations in one battle. But mini-ball technology really crushes the Napoleonic method of warfare. So there's a reevaluation.
Interesting. All right, that's cool. All right, so a little military history stuff for y'all. All right, thanks, James. You should be making 6 figures and having new co-eds every night up in your study.
Dude, I will go with 3 figures, 36, 24, 48.
Oh, okay. My God. That's right. My man has ancient world taste as well. All right, man. There you go.